In this discussion, we will discuss the discussion question of discuss the process for making a sales mix type of decision. If we see a discussion question like this or an essay question like this, our goal is typically to expand on the answer being more likely than to pick up what is looked for in terms of an essay question and therefore pick up points. Or if it's a discussion question, our goal is typically to expand on the discussion, contribute to the discussion. In order to do that, typically we need to add or expand on the topic. Keeping that in mind, let's go through this one more time. Discuss the process for making a sales mix type of decision. So first we might want to think about, okay, a sales mix type of decision, is it going to be, that's going to be more of a managerial type of decision we're thinking about. We might contrast that to a financial accounting type of decision. We're not making, in other words, this decision just simply to conform with some process of, like, say, generally accepted accounting principles to record the transactions. We're thinking of managerial accounting. We're compiling data to think of what we should do in terms of the best processing for an internal accounting, internal decision, internal company type of decision-making process. And then we have the sales mix type of decision. So a sales mix type of decision is usually going to be it's a common type of managerial accounting decision where we make multiple different types of products. We might make, multiple, different types of inventory products. And our question then is, how much should we produce of these items, of different items of inventory? Now, there's different factors that are going to come into play with the sales mix. Obviously, we want to consider what's the demand for these type of units. Can we sell these units? And then we want to consider how much it costs to produce the units, what we can sell these units for, and therefore, the contribution margin per unit. Now, oftentimes there's another kind of component. If we make these units, then we might have an issue of there's a bottleneck in terms of the production process, which might be something like labor hours. How long does it take to make the units? Or it could be something like machine hours. How many machine hours does it take to make the units? So first, of course, we would want to consider what's the contribution margin per unit, the sales per unit minus the variable costs per unit, and consider the contribution margin and think about which one is higher, right? And then we want to think about the demand for those units. And if there was sufficient demand, then we would produce the units that would make us more revenue per unit, you would think. However, there's another factor, of course. If we produce these, how much does it time does it take for us to produce these? So we've got a bottleneck typically, which would be hours to produce, or it would be machine hours. So then we might want to consider the contribution margin per the bottleneck, machine hours or labor hours, and then we would consider. So we do the calculation of the contribution margin per unit. Possibly then think about how many hours it takes to produce, machine hours, labor hours, and then calculate the contribution margin per machine hour or labor hour. And then we can take that information and then figure out, okay, what's the sales mix we should have? We would take, again, the one that produces the highest contribution margin per labor hour, machine hour, the constraint, and we would produce those until we hit the market maximum. And then we would produce the other items at that market maximum, possibly given the data that we have received. So that's going to be the kind of thought process that we're going to be taking into consideration. So sales mix, which type of product should we sell? How do we come up to that decision? We look, of course, at the sales price versus the cost, contribution margin. If we make these items, then we need to consider the constraining item, which will typically be machine hours or labor hours. How long does it take for us to make these things? Taking that into consideration when we're then thinking about our sales mix.